being light is the standard of beauty.
Men, we will have preferences all day. But what gives power to our preferences? We have definitively found a way to demonize people being educated.
No, I'm here to be triggered.
Okay.
I was prepared.
I want to...
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 5 of Watu Pipo podcast. Yay! Thank you so much. We have hit our first 2,000 views in our dating video.
Yeah.
Yep. And kwa kweli, these views, these comments we get on our comment section, on our DMs, they give us drive and they reinstate our sense of purpose towards what we're doing. So thank you so much.
Yes.
My name is Nkishanira. I am one half of this podcast, and
My name is Thecla, and I'm one half, the other half.
The other
of this
half.
podcast.
And we have a special guest who I'm sure, out of the 2,000 views you give us again, at least 1,900 know this guy. What's your name?
My name is Gervaz, and I'm the third half.
Is it a half again?
He's not a half, but he's a guest. And if you know Gervaz, which I'm sure a bunch of you are watching know, you'll know that he's a great conversationalist. And we're happy to have you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it was very hard to have you. I'm so glad the other thing you had to do didn't work out, so you could show up for this one. The universe is just conspiring for the greatness of this show.
Podcast.
Yeah.
Yes.
Our topic for the day is colorism.
Ding.
Ding. Obviously, it's something that we and T for sure have experienced, being dark-skinned women. Gervaz, you tell us your point of view, or even if you think this thing exists.
Yeah.
But I will open this discussion with a definition, and then I'm gonna ask all of us to start. Starting with you, Thecla.
Okay.
What is your first experience of colorism? But let me give the definition quickly. So colorism is differential treatment based on skin color, especially favoritism towards those with a lighter skin tone, and mistreatment or exclusion of those with a darker skin tone, typically amongst those of the same racial group or ethnicity. So this is a global phenomenon. Colorism exists in Asia, which I thought was crazy because the darkest Asian, okay, except for Indians, and maybe even Pakistanis and Sri Lankans, never mind. But there's colorism in different parts of the world, and we're going to discuss how colorism affects us or how we've lived through it in our Tanzanian Black African society. Kwa hiyo, Thecla, just tell us, what was your first experience of colorism?
So, I think if I going further back my memory, I think maybe school. It was definitely school. And around 7, 8, when you're young, 4, all of you feel like you're this, there's no
We're
such
the
thing.
same.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then 7, 8, 9,
Something starts to
something
change.
just, and everyone is just rude, Yeah, I was picked on a lot, and I could say it's still, but very subtly, very subtle. But back then it was proper. I wouldn't hang with the cool girls because, they'll be like, "When will see?" When will come and it was right now. I'm trying to make it seem nicer, but yeah, it was bad. It was very bad. And actually, I think my first ever crush, those baby crushes,
Yeah.
I like that boy. Yeah, that one was the first one who bullied me because of being dark. Because he liked a lighter girl. It's like, yule ndo mzuri, we mbaya, we mweusi, Yeah, I think that's the first. Yeah, that's the first
That's your
experience.
first encounter with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
You? Did you ever?
Mimi. Yes, my first encounter was secondary school. When we were in Form 3, I specifically remember our Kiswahili teacher would always compare the lightest and the darkest girl in the room. So we had both extremes. We had a higher girl, beautiful higher girl.
Yeah.
Very darker than Thecla.
Yeah.
Beautiful skin. And then we had another lady.
From Singida, I think.
Singida, she had a bit of Greek in her. But those 0.25%
Yeah.
mixed. So she was very light, like
and brown
very, very
eyes
light.
and
Like she was very, very light. As light as you can be when you still have kinky hair and you're black. So he would always make comparison jokes of like, oh, let me just call them X being the dark one, and let me call Y the light one. He would make jokes of like, oh, for example, X is very smart, but Y there is very dumb. So he would almost make jokes in which the darker lady X was smarter or better in some way, and the lighter one was not as good. But there was an irony to it.
no,
There was an irony to it. Like
it was sarcastic.
it was very sarcastic, and you could almost tell that he's implying that the lady who has lighter skin was better in certain ways than the lady who had darker skin. So we would all laugh because we're kids and it's funny. But that's when I learned that kumbe there is a distinction. Like I didn't know that there was. I didn't look at them as and think you're light or dark. I just thought you're people, or maybe we're we're tall or we're short. But I did not see skin tone as a way of identifying someone until that point. I also used to have a girl who was my friend who teach me math a lot. She was very smart. She would always tell me about how when she was born, the doctors thought she was albino and how that was like her flex, you know? And now she thinks she's light, but she used to be lighter than this. So that's when I learned, okay, kumbe there's something ambacho. Kumbe there's a class. And in that class, the lighter skinned girls are the winners. So
yeah,
I went to an all girls school, by the way. What about you?
I think that this experience, I went to a bunch of boys' schools.
Okay.
And I tend to disagree. Like I tend to, even as an adult, I'm in WhatsApp groups with people I went to primary school with. I tend to disregard a lot of the things that happen at that lower level because kids can be mean even without knowing that they're being mean.
Yeah.
Anything that is an easy target is always like we had some of the meanest names for people. There's someone that I think they used to call him square root because with the shape of his head. Like, you know how the square root goes.
He's like this and
so he had a little dip, like, and it was
no.
It wasn't even that big, but that's what happens in those spaces where kids will what is the easy target?
Yeah.
How you look.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, there's this idea at schools where, you wear a uniform. It's meant to like, you're not supposed to see like this person is rich. You're kind of averaged out. But that means it gives kids like, let's zoom in. What can we pick apart about you? So there's all those things going on there. And being particular, we had someone who was particularly dark. Last time I feel like there always is someone who's
that's always the darkest
in primary school.
class,
And they called him a name. I think it was I told you after this time it was an Arabic word that I think was the black stone. It has religious significance. So they called him about the black stone, but in Arabic. So they called him the Arabic word for that.
What is the black stone in Arabic?
I forget it.
Sounds
I can't pronounce it. I can't pronounce it properly.
Okay.
But it has significance.
Uh-huh.
And then there's also a story of the first slave who was able to do the first prayer call. Also, but obviously he was different from people there because he was black, and I think sometimes they would call him that name and things like that. But again, this is not. I try and make a distinction between, because I feel like when people are sort of aware of their actions and they're prejudicially acting a certain way, I feel like it's easier to put on them that is colorism than for kids. And for a lot of like so after primary school, which is in primary school, I went to a boys and girls school, but from Form 1 to Form 6, I went to 3 different schools and they were all boys schools.
Would they expel you? Is that why you went to different schools? Because you look like a good
I can
kid.
neither confirm nor deny.
Okay.
But in boys schools, there's a lot of messing about with each other, a lot of teasing, and like it was for me. I think those were the times that I think in my life I laughed so very much at so many different things about myself, about other like people. Just because you're in the dorms, you have nothing to do. You're not like there's no like supervision of a certain kind, and if you're bored and there's no TV. You are each other's
entertainment.
Exactly. So there was a lot of things said, and there's like, if you happen to be lighter or darker, or you have people make jokes about someone's nose, if someone's nose is because again, amongst all of you, someone will have something. So there'll be the tall person, there'll be the short person, there'll be the person whose nose is bigger, this person who's all kinds of things. There's and I've been in schools where you have the Indians, you have the Arabs. There's a I don't know if that's the proper term for them, but
So
people call them
in that school where you were ethnically mixed, yani, or racially mixed, I would think that hierarchy, especially with skin tone, it becomes more apparent. So perhaps because it was a boys' school, and I know that colorism affects men differently.
It does.
Yeah.
Because for men, the measure is not how you look.
Not really. At least not. And maybe we'll get into this ahead, but there's a certain way in which women consume other women's appearance. And when I say consume, I mean like how they engage with it. Versus how men do. Because maybe for men, it's a question of maybe either your potential point of attraction or not. And then men to men, like there you may have experienced girls saying things at you about your appearance or the bullying coming from girls. But for men to other men, it's like they don't really care about another man's appearance.
No.
Almost like even when we're joking about it, it tends to not someone being like, you're this because your nose is big. It's more like, so a joke that they'd make with one kid, he was an Arab kid, he had a bit of the nose, and people say like, you know what, there's no air in here. Tell someone to stop breathing. Like it'll be, it's meant to elicit a laugh, and there's a lot of back and forth. So even as adults, I don't really see that happening. But if you are like, of course, you've met my housemate. He's relatively light skinned, and sometimes make jokes about him, and sometimes he'll make jokes about himself about people thinking he's an Arab or he's this or he's that. But it's never, you don't experience it in the sense of it being, or even myself being darker, it being used or feeling like it's being used against me because maybe my appearance just isn't scrutinized that way in society or as a dude. So it's a pretty different experience.
Okay.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
You noted kwamba you wouldn't take what kids were doing
I had the same question.
as colorism because at that point
they don't know any
better, which is a fair thing. I think at that age you cannot be held criminally liable for your actions because you're young. Why do you say that just because it wasn't intentional, then it wasn't colorism?
I will draw a parallel to racism in this particular instance. I really there's a lot of discussions around racism and whether there's the idea that people say black people can't be racist and all these things. And I'm a firm believer in intent. And personally, I do think black people can be racist because if the definition, and maybe it's a question of definition, if the definition is, having a prejudicial thought about someone because of the color of their skin, then you are capable of it. Yeah. Now, you might not, there are people who view racism like it has to come with systemic power.
Yes.
And I feel like the problem of this idea is that, and we might get into this because this circles back into colorism, where recently the beef between Drake and Kendrick.
Yeah.
I didn't follow it as much, but there were those large components of it that started this discourse amongst black people about, and this really happened in Western spaces, about like, what does it mean to be black? If you're mixed, are you black? And it drives this thing into this place where like, okay, when I'll give an example here in Tanzania. You probably have heard this story a bunch. You go, I'm a photographer. I go to different places. I do different things. If I walk into a hotel and I'm dressed a certain way and there's another black person and they treat me a certain way, they're just like, what are you doing here? What do you want? Whatever. And a white person goes by and they walk in and no
one bats an eye.
And I understand that they're treating me that way because I'm a local. I'm a black person. And in this context, that white person maybe represents a certain economic opportunity that I don't.
Yeah.
They didn't do anything. This is a black on black interaction. But that is racism. That is someone seeing the color of your skin, making assumption of you outside of internal. Like, I feel like even the idea of it being internalized makes it seem like it had to come from somewhere else. And what they're doing, I accept that it is not in this context. If you see a white person here, it's highly unlikely that they're just some poor guy. They had to get on a plane. They had to get here. They have to make some kind. They might not be the richest person, but they're probably in a slightly economic advantage position than you are. And what that person is doing at that time, I don't even consider it internalized racism, only because in some instances they are right. I have been to places. I was at an event where they were doing an exhibition. I think it was NGPI or something. We're on the road. Some people go by in a motorcycle, and someone they just looked at them suspiciously. They felt before they did anything, that motorcycle came up and grabbed someone's purse and drove off. And that is the reality of that context, that the thing that is going off in that person's head comes from somewhere. Yeah. There are people who go into those spaces and it leads to certain things. And what is happening in that instance is that person is just making, I think when someone makes a judgment that does not give you the chance to be whoever you actually are, where they've passed judgment on you, assuming you're something, and that is them being racist, because they're just like, no, you are this pack of stereotypes and things that I believe, and you will not get the same treatment as someone else who is a different color of skin. Okay. So I attach intent to action, that two people can do the exact same thing. A good example is a parent beating their kid. One parent can be beating their kid to discipline them, and someone can actually just be child abuse. Like, the action might look the same. The intent makes a world of difference about what is actually happening. And
yes,
for racism, just like for colorism, I feel like the intent has to be there. You can be racist without necessarily being conscious of it. I accept that. There are things that, there's a friend of mine, he's Indian. He went to the States, and when he came back, he was just like, you know what? I realized that some of my people back here are racist towards black people. I just hadn't realized it because I grew up around this place. But if you think of someone who grew up surrounded by other Indian people who are Indian doctors and such, and maybe only their gardener and their house worker is a black person, and maybe they haven't really thought about it, but maybe their opinion of black people is less. And they're just like, you know what? I have been this way, and now I can come out. That is being maybe racist and not being aware. But intent, I think, plays a large part, because if the goal is to get people to change, if the goal is you have to create accountability. If you just say, like, you know what, these people can't be racist, then if they do something that is technically racist, you can't hold them accountable because they're not being racist.
Thecla, I want to ask you a question. On intent, what do you think about that? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because on intent, because when a person bullies you, whatever their age, right, they already have an intent, an intention to hurt. Yeah. Right? So
I contest that. I contest that. For kids.
I'm contesting your contest.
Yeah.
And
continue.
Even if this person is a kid, say 7, let's start with 7. Yeah. Right? 7 going forward. Ni kwamba mmeingia in an altercation, or you're trying to fit in, because in my case, was me trying to fit in into this group of people who I thought could be my friends, right? And they're trying to exclude me because of the color of my skin. So they know, it's intentional. They know that I don't like that. I think she's ugly. I don't think she fits in. And the intention is to make her feel like she does not
so that she stays away
so that she stays away, right? So I don't think and again, posing a question, where does intent start? Because if you're saying a kid doesn't have intent, when does intent start?
Okay. I want to answer that before you answer.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think intent does not prevent a consequence from happening.
Yes.
So these kids, I whether or not they had an intention to hurt, or whether or not we can't hold them accountable to their intentions because of their age and the naivety, Thecla still left there feeling less than on the basis of her skin tone. Now that is what I think is colorism. So where kumaanisha kuto kumaanisha umefanya bahati mbaya, mwisho siku umemuumiza mtu, and you've left someone with a scar that they can talk about 20 years later. Another thing to ask is, where did these kids learn this? Because they're young. I mean, at this point, everything they know, they have copied and pasted from the environment around them. That tells you something. Kwamba from a very young age, in one way or another, there's subliminals that teach kids to know from the age of 4, 5, 6, 7 that a joke of being dark-skinned can be used against you. How do they know that?
Yeah.
There's something in our society that taught them that. And that is what is colorism, regardless of what intention they came in there with.
I'm going to go back to intent for this reason.
Okay.
On one end, the same idea with racism. If you can put that on an individual kid, right? The concept of systemic structures, because that goes away from an individual person, where it's just like, it has to be this thing back for it to be racism. And similarly, if the person is saying, I'll give you this example. This happened to me personally. I went to shoot at a place where there's a lot of white people, and I was one of maybe 3 black people there. And there was this older white lady who was being some type of, when it was time to give people food,
A Karen.
who was being some type of way of just like, what are you doing here? But I was with a friend of mine who was there. He's white, and he was just like, that lady was being racist and stuff. And I told her, like, what's happening in that space is elitism. In that space, because those people are like, I don't want to give certain specifics, but let's say they belong to a certain community, and those people are well off, and that community doesn't really have black people in it. So they didn't know that I was also there not as a member of that community. I was there as a vendor, technically, to take pictures. So I didn't belong there because she didn't recognize me. And there was a black person she did recognize, that she knew that was one of them. What was happening in that instant is elitism. So that lady may have been elitist. She may have not been racist, because there are people who are racist, and I've been around these people. I've heard they've said things where, like, this person thinks that because they are white, they are better than you who are black. That is the core tenet of just like, I think I'm more valuable as a human being. I'm better because I am white and you are black, or I am this race and you're not this race. And that small intent difference, because if you call the elitist a racist, you're not gonna, like, you're just gonna be like, oh, you're a racist, and they're gonna defend themselves. They're gonna do all kinds of things. But again, if the question is like, you're trying to get somewhere to make some sort of progress, but with a child, if just like with racism, where you say it's attached to a system and oppression, when they're calling you dark skinned, and that's why I gave all these other examples, kids will find there's no subtle way to be like, let me say something about your personality.
So why did they find that? How did they know that was something they could tease about?
If it was the, you've probably experienced this more as an adult, more than amongst children, but Tanzanians, and maybe it's because we're a third world country. We have definitively found a way to demonize people being educated, to demonize people being able to speak English. I've personally experienced this. If you might be well off, and people can make you be like, you're soft for being If it's the question is finding something to either make themselves feel better. I'm also a Sunday school teacher, and I also work at a school. But I've seen the things that kids, like, just because they're just like, I want these two to be my friends and I don't want you to join the group, they would say, like, if you don't have this lunchbox, and technically that it might be a slightly more expensive, like it's a Barbie fancy lunchbox, and you just have a
SpongeBob lunchbox,
a what is it, cello container, and you could be like, these people are being elitist. These kids are being elitist. They think that we're the rich kids, you're the poor kid, and you're putting me down. But for the children, like, again, for the children, in this case, not even as adults, like, someone can find anything to put you down. The reason why I'm saying intent is that if someone thinks that they are better, and I've met certain kids of a certain race who are just like, you know what, I am better. You're a black person, I am better than you because I am this, because that's what my parents tell me, and that's how we live.
You've answered the question.
Hold on.
The same way these kids can be elitist is because they know
what I'm saying
that poverty,
is they can call you poor. They can call, like, someone can call you, can say you have a big nose.
Yeah.
Right? Because that is the obvious thing on you. That,
but why is it a bad thing? Like, why did they use that? Like,
and that's why I said the example. They can even take a good thing about you.
What did they learn?
And make it a bad thing.
The nose is a bad thing.
Again, if you are different, the thing that kids are noticing is that for some reason you are not like me, and if I can find a way to use that against you, it might not necessarily mean, like, even if it's just the nose, it might not mean, like, if there was a criteria for people with small noses and big noses, and there's this whole dynamic
to racism.
It could be, but then if you are a kid with a bigger nose and kids make jokes about you having a bigger nose, are those kids racists? Let's say you have a bigger nose because you come from a race that tends to have bigger noses. Are they being racist? Are they thinking that we are better, we have more value than you because we don't have as big of a nose as you do?
They are. This conversation can spiral. Let's
go back to colorism.
Okay. So I'm gonna go dive straight into it. We live in different parts. Our lives have different segments. So we have our lives at work, we have our lives at school, we have our family life, we have our dating life, we have our childhood, how we grew up. So I want us to start, like, from your home. Have you seen colorism? Like, I'm talking aunties, uncles, extended family, moms, dads, even if maybe not your own, but have you seen it as a phenomenon? And when I say colorism, Gervaz, I'm speaking 360. The person who was enforcing that and the person receiving that. Because sometimes I may have not meant to hurt you, but umeondoka na a scar.
Mm-hmm.
So in that way, have you seen it in homes? Because that's where we all start. That's where life begins. UT.
My family in particular? No, I don't think so.
What are the skin tones in your family?
My dad is dark, maybe like Gervaz or you, like ile
brown.
Yeah,
yeah.
Not. Then my mom is really dark. She's exactly like me. Then there is Paul, my younger brother, who's dark, like
Sudanese.
A lot of people think he's Sudanese or Ugandan. Super dark. Then there's Victor again. That's
in the middle,
nice in between.
Okay.
Yeah, so I could say I kind of saw some little jabs to my young brother, especially when he was younger. But growing up, having more masculine features, then he's now celebrated.
He's now that guy.
Yeah, he's now that guy. Like, oh, boy, he's very handsome. But when he was little, there was a bit of But now, everything comes together. Like now he has a beard, he has, he looks like the man. Like,
when he walks in, he's like, that's the alpha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I really can't say I could see it like Komba. Oh no, even from my cousins, not really.
Okay.
Not really. Because I think, being even also the tribe that I'm from, we are very dark. Like it's rare. Higher.
Okay.
So it's very rare for you to find light skin. Yeah, wapo. Like sometimes even if I just come up somewhere and ask people, hey, can you guess the tribe I am? Everyone would think higher.
Yeah. So, but also that's because of the way you're built as well.
Really?
Yeah. It's not just your skin tone. Yeah, you should go watch the Big Butt episode to get us to understand where we're coming from even more.
So yeah, no, not really.
Okay. What about you?
I
don't know.
Not personally. Like I've seen it out there.
What have you seen out there?
So I see it in when you see products. So the first time I think I saw something connected to it was when I heard about, I think it's called Carolite. So, things to put on your skin to make you lighter. I'm just like, oh, okay. But I think this was very early on, and my initial thought of it was just like, I guess it's just like I'd met women and they do all sorts of things to change bits and pieces of themselves.
Yeah.
And it just fell into that, where it's just like, I guess
like lashes and nails.
Lashes and nails and hair and this and that and that.
Fell into that?
When you were
for
younger,
me. And also take this way.
Opinion?
Hold on. Take this way. Because most dudes don't do more than get a haircut.
Yeah.
Like you work, but beyond that, you put on your clothes and you get a haircut. So much of what some of the ladies do just doesn't make sense to us. Where it's just like, hey, like not even something that would necessarily even, there are people who would be like, you know what, if their girlfriends ask them for money, we're just like, I'm not even gonna ask
what it is,
like why and what it is and why is that, because you're probably not gonna get an explanation that either that you understand, or you might, if you show how much lack of concern you have, you might seem like a person who doesn't care. So again, it's one of those things. Well, it's just, I don't know why. I met one person I went to school with. I remember I'd never seen this before, and I'd come back from a holiday in secondary school, and I met them, and they had, I think it was turmeric on their face, so they were just yellow, and I was just like, what is that? Like, what are you doing? It's just like, oh no, it's a skin thing, and again, it's one of those things where it's just like I just don't get it, and you just am not going to try and understand it. I think as an adult, it has gone more into, I do understand that there's a different kind of maybe pressure experienced on the other end to look to be, and everything that comes with being a woman in certain spaces. Let me say it like that, because I know there's spaces where women don't necessarily go through that experience, and it's one of those things where it would end up becoming, I think it's a stepping stone where there's things you can do that are maybe people might think of as embellishments. You're painting a nail.
Yeah.
And there's a friend of mine who, you probably know someone like this, who they're like, they have dreadlocks, and they're just like, I'm just like all about being all natural, even if I'm going to use, there's a friend of mine, like her deodorant and everything, it comes from like natural oils.
About people with natural deodorant.
And sometimes she smells like clove. I was just like, oh, that's interesting. And it's again, it's one of those things where for everyone the line is different, but further down that line, and now you have a lot of these clinics that you want to go and get like Botox and like there are many different things that someone can change about themselves, and it goes into a variety of things where it's just like people not feeling like maybe it's a dysmorphia thing or it's a thing where there's an idea being sold to them about how they should look, or it's because all of these people exist in the same space.
Yeah.
They are surrounded by a lot of the same media and all these things. So it's like, okay, some people have had this thing they've internalized this thing, and now it's causing them to either desire to be or look a certain way. So I've seen it out there in a variety of different things. And for me, it has fallen into that category because there are other versions of this. Like if you paint your nails red, no one naturally has red nails, right? It's like it's easier to call it an embellishment.
Yeah.
But if you, let's say, always want your hair to look straight out of your head and you are, let's say, a person who naturally has kinky hair, it is easier for someone to be like, why do you want, there's something out there that someone who looks like that naturally, and why do you naturally want to look like that and not what you naturally look like? And it starts, you can push the line further and further, and it might be, for me, seeing it is just like, okay, for me, it feels like one of those things where for some reason that otherness has been made into something that this person wants.
Okay.
So when you're saying that you have seen colorite and you have seen that whole, bleaching, and for you as a guy, it's like it's a foreign thing.
Yeah.
Pick a side, what do you actually think about it? Because
what do I think about?
Yeah,
I think
about bleaching out.
Yeah,
about bleaching and all. I think it's.
No,
I think it's
bring it home. Can you? Will you ever be okay if your daughter or your wife bleaches? And would you take it as combat? Hey, it's women things the same way you're saying now? No,
because that's the thing. If the problem here is if you don't know someone like that, there's only a certain level that your voice can carry any weight in their life. To the point that if you don't know them, so your voice can just be a negative thing.
Your wife, your girlfriend.
No,
your
that's
daughter.
for people.
You would know
for
people.
Anyone that I have that level of relationship with, I would ask them why they feel the need to do that.
Why do you think they feel the need to do that?
I
from
personally,
what you know now, I know you don't have a
personally.
Story.
What I've come to find is that it's a lot of different things for a lot of different reasons. I'll give you a couple of examples, and I think I've spoken to you in part about this. Like there's a friend of mine. She just does cornrows, and she goes to the office like that and stuff. And there's another friend of mine who's just like, I can't go to the office in cornrows. I feel weird. Some type of way. I feel weird. I feel like I'm mini mwanafunzi or whatever it is, or. There are people who be like, you say that we shouldn't, would tell me like men who say that women shouldn't wear makeup, and they're like, and then you don't wear makeup, and then you go to the office and people ask you if you're sick. And sometimes it's the difficulty of living in a new normal, where it's just like, okay, if I said like I'm going to do this, let's say I wasn't doing it before and I'm going to do it now, and then I have to go and deal with living in the new normal that is like, people are just like, why don't you do that thing that you used to do? Sometimes it's like, okay, there are people who I remember when they first come to university. So you meet, let's say, girls who grew up in Dar, and maybe they go to the saloon a bit more regularly and stuff like that, and there's a way that they put themselves together. And you come into that space, and you are not like that. So I've seen people wonder out loud, like, you know what? Do I need to be doing my like braids every like 3 months? I have a new set of braids. Do I need to be? Because again, you're in a space, and maybe you feel like, if this is what
beauty is.
Sometimes it's not beauty, but what people have accepted. In that space, and it's you wonder like, is that what you want to become? And there are people who actively they saw something somewhere, and this is more of a question of coming from a place of lack, where sometimes if there isn't enough something to build a person up. So I've met people who I have a friend of mine. She's a lawyer. She's very well spoken. She's very confident, and I've told her like, I wish I've met more ladies who are very unapologetic about. And I told her to be very sensitive about what she speaks, because not a lot of people have the voice that she does, more so the confidence that she does. So what she should be more wary about what she says. But as an example, like the confidence that she has, I feel like it's harder for someone to come in and make her think less of herself. But the people, I think, either because they have not been affirmed or from the background they have come from, someone else coming in and being like, you should be this way and not the way you are, carries more weight than it necessarily should have. So it's not that they've been influenced. It's just maybe you've met people who are not necessarily confident. I'm a person who's, let's say, relatively confident. I've met people who I feel like, you know what, if I really tried, I can kind of bully you into making you do something that you were not willing to do by just being boisterous and confident and just talking over you. You're gonna shy away.
I'm trying to understand, Gervaz. In summary, are you saying that bleaching is something people do based on their level of internal?
It could be like an insecurity. It could be a confidence thing. It could be just like it's so much friction to exist in this way. I want to go and
the reason why that friction exists in that direction anyway is because we live in a society where being light is the standard of beauty.
I don't think so, but okay.
Why?
Okay, why do you think so, Thecla?
Why do I think
I understand.
So?
Yeah. Go ahead.
So, one, because it's been perpetuated a lot, right? Okay, there's so many other things like, we can blame colonialism and whatnot, but that has left for the
it has left stains.
But then those stains, right? But also even without colonialism, right? We have examples of societies like the Sukumas, right? Where they're telling you that for them, ages and ages and ages ago, that has been the norm. Kwamba mweupe, the more lighter you are, you get more dowry. Yeah, and the dark ones will get dowry, labda ng'ombe tano.
Lakini ukiwa light, ukiwa ng'ombe 500.
You know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's been there, you know.
It's been there.
It's been there.
And
so, and I feel like media, I can even blame men and their word that they like, preference. It's my preference. But is it though?
Is it a preference? I wanna bring it back even to childhood. I have not experienced this. In my family, we're all dark. I know that the people believe that Chagas are light skin, and nimekutana nao baadaye ukubwani. Mbona ni Mchaga, mbona ni mweusi? Because they are used to the light skin Chaga ambao wapo. In my family, both mom and dad are dark skin, and my dad's family, all of them are dark skin. What any dark skin? So I didn't grow up with that reality. Nimekuta kukutana nao up as I myth. So at home, we were all good. But I have heard people speak of how at home there was a lighter sister and a darker sister, and how there was some kind of preferential treatment au kudekezwa that the lighter sister would get that the darker would not, from the parents and or the extended family, only on the basis of huyu ni mweupe, therefore she's more pretty. Therefore, and for women, beauty comes with actual tangible rewards. Yes, for women, beauty comes with tangible, like literal money, literal rewards. So you can see how the world around us, especially as Tanzanian women, as African women, how it rewards light-skinned women in a way that it does not for dark-skinned women, because beauty is a tangible thing that brings actual rewards to women.
And that's why this whole argument of yours that says that all these things can really be something inside, like ni insecurity ambayo hujaifanyia kazi. I don't think so.
Among other things. I do want to specify that it's among other things.
Okay, sawa.
Because we exist in each other's spaces every single day. I feel like kuna ile the law of mtu kuambia ni kuna a word for it.
Repetition,
like, no, like this the thing coming to you every single time now changes what you want to say, or
changes your mind or opinion on something.
Okay. Yeah. So I have a couple of things on that. On one end, I want to make a comment about the beauty standard.
Yeah.
I understand what you mean, and I think it's important to be maybe a bit more specific when you say that, only because I think if you ask, there's a popular comment on one of the pages I follow, and it's basically that it changes. Sometimes it's a guy saying it, sometimes it's a woman saying it. And it says, kwani mnataka nini, simlituambia mnataka hiki? And it's a different thing. Someone will be like, I thought you said you like women with big butts. Sometimes it's someone is complaining that, I'm with this guy, he treats me nice, he gives me everything, but something. And then someone's just like, I thought you just wanted a dude who buys you, what do you want? Yeah. Like comments like that. And if you take a couple hundred groups of people and you ask them, what do you think the thing is? Or let's say you were chasing that standard, right? Yeah. It will be, and I think I've given you this example before, that there was a space of 2 years in popular culture just here in Tanzania there was a song about women with very big bodies.
Yeah.
There was a song about women who are. It was in the other song. I think it wasn't the whole song, but it would refer to a lady who's like a model, like a small bodied woman. There was a song that came out that had a very dark skinned lady in the video as the only lady and the main.
And most probably got a lot of backlash. But
I don't think that got a lot of backlash, but I will tell you, even online, depending on your algorithm, you will go to spaces where light-skinned men are viewed as like, those jokes about light-skinned men.
Yeah, soft.
There are places where you go where women who are like, and if you are the proper, nearly Sudanese, South Sudanese dark person, like that's the stuff right there. That is, hold on. And I'm not saying, and I understand there's this idea of mainstreamness of an idea. And there are people who you go like, the beauty standard is a white woman. That's what's happening. There are places where you go, they're like, it's not a light-skinned woman. It's a white woman with blonde. And some people just like, you will go and people comments like, I don't want that. What's that? What are you talking about? This is the stuff right here. And it's a moving thing. And the next comment I wanted to make is about preferences. Men, we will have preferences all day, but what gives power to our preferences? You will find a man anywhere on the street who will be like, yeah, that's what I like. Men are unapologetic about saying the thing that they like.
Yeah.
Even if it's not the thing that they have, even if it's just walking on the street, whatever it is, they will be unapologetic about saying like, that's what I like, right? But what turns their preferences into something that women should desire to be or desire to be at all? Because I've talked to you about this idea of buy-in, where if there's enough loud voices out there telling you need to have a butt, until that crosses into like, I don't feel like I have a big enough butt, I need to go and get surgery to do a butt.
Yeah.
There's a buying into the idea. Yeah. And at the same time, I've given this example for men that if, let's say we're experiencing the same media, the same music, and in a lot of popular media, the main guy, the good-looking guy, he has a nice car, he's fit. How many men do you know who have that Brad Pitt, like, or not even pursue it? Like, you know what?
Yeah.
That's what I need to look like.
Yeah.
Most of the men we, like, in our lives, they don't look like that.
That's a music video.
They don't.
Wow.
It's just like, hey,
But
it's
for
nice.
Women, we're gonna go out there and change to look like that.
And those same men will go and try and, like, they don't feel like we've been accused, rightly so, of having audacity.
Yes.
They will go and find you with you might be the fittest girl around, and they might be the unfittest person. They might not even be that tall, whatever it is that they need to be desirable. And they'll come up to you and be like, what's up?
Yeah.
Like that, whatever that sense of like, oh, I'm not influenced by, I either just am what I am and I have to live with that. That's one thing where I would ask, like, if it is a question of being hammered, like everywhere you go, there are billboards. There's something telling you like, this is the thing right here, right? But there's a question of like buying into it. What is your reference of, where do you find your identity? Or I might be a Christian. I might be like, okay, you find your identity in Christ and all these things. But wherever you've decided to place, like, you know what, this is the reference of who I am, what I need to be. This is how I reach my point of acceptance to what I look like and who I am. Because those things never really go away. Voices and things telling you that you should be different from how you are. And sometimes it's not always that. Someone will just be like, you know what, we're making an ad. Let's find, Coca-Cola has done this. And they have ads where all the people in their ads are kind of racially ambiguous. And from a marketing position, it's because you can take those ads and put them in Ethiopia, in Tanzania. It's very cost efficient.
Sense, yeah.
And these people, they're all sort of mixed race looking. Everyone can kind of see a bit of themselves in that space, because you can't have just dark skin, just light skin. And if it is just light skin, if that's what you feel like people will respond to more in that space, those things are always there. Someone is making a decision to be like, let's put this into circulation. But the thing you said about, it was the third part I was going to make, but now I forgot. The thing you said just after she made the comments. Not about intention.
About what?
Anyway, just you go ahead. I'll remember. But it was, I wanted to address that, like, it's, those things are there. There is outside forces, absolutely.
Yes, so about those outside forces, we are chronically online. So for most of us, our society is online as well. What you constantly see being pushed, the suggested for you, the trending videos kind of thing. They also, in a way, establish what's cool and what's in right now. And I am so happy to see that these days, dark skin is in. I see it more than in a way that I could not see it 10, 8 years ago. I think in the past 3 years. And I've also started to see a brand of men who only date dark-skinned women. which is something that I could not conceptualize when I was in that class in Form 3 and my teacher was making jokes against a dark-skinned girl.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen that, again, like you said, that bar of what beauty is, it's moving, it's turning.
But then also, now I remember the comment I would make.
Yeah.
Sometimes we perceive it as being a monolith. So there is someone somewhere who is...
Monolith means one thing. Gervaz uses a hard word. Monolith means kitu kimoja.
There is someone somewhere. I've had this experience when it comes to pressure to getting married, and someone will be like, society is pressuring you to get married, and I'll be like, okay, tell me who in your circle
is
for wherever you experience. And then it ended up being like 3 aunts who are just like, when are you getting married? You should get married. Out of like everyone else asked, have your parents ever? I asked the same person, have your parents ever? Like, no, they're just like, make sure you study, make sure if you find someone. But those 3 voices are very loud. And that is the thing you could have if I'm a musician and I have a lot of influence. And maybe what I like is something in particular, or a woman of a certain kind. And I have a massive platform and I say that. And maybe there are a couple of people who agree with me. But if those are the voices you hear, it's easy to feel like this is the
standard.
This is what must be what men like.
Colorism was not born off of a star saying I like light or dark-skinned women. Colorism has a very dark past. Back to colonialism and slavery.
True.
Where the lighter-skinned individuals, the ones who look more like the slave master or the colonizer, were given more favors, would work inside the house, or the darker-skinned ones would work outside.
Were we enslaved? We were colonized.
Enslaved.
Were we enslaved?
We were not enslaved.
Why do you think
the same hierarchy applied to us?
Okay.
And that's why we have inherited. And that same enslaved country dominates, I think, if not 100%, then 80% of the media we consume on TV and online. So we are also learning from them. And internally, we have our own biases of how dark skin looks like. Things like rangi ya mtume, umenga. The fact that umenga automatically implies light skin is already the root of the problem. Because if you're dark skin, can you nga? Does that apply to you? There are some subtle ways in which you are taught that being dark is not pretty or it's not enough. This is not to bring down the light-skinned girls. It's just to say that there's a struggle here that we are experiencing as dark-skinned women that people would mask as perhaps a preference. Which, when actually it's a pandemic, it's not a preference.
And also on your point, on you before you want to change something about yourself, there's the buy-in,
right?
To
the thing.
And I feel like you only gave an example where women are more prone to buy in.
But physically,
I asked, like, why do you think? I'm not saying that they are more prone to buying in, but men are susceptible to, like, my favorite example is Gillette razors.
Yeah.
If you look at Gillette, there's a whole joke about them where it's just like they're sold as this thing, and you know how it moves, and just like, yani, there's a way that things are sold to men that have nothing to do, like, it's an extra ray that gives you a really smooth. It's how things are marketed them, but there's no substance there, if that makes sense. But it's a play on, like, how do we get these people? And sometimes even the thing is just like, you will get more ladies. There's always a lady brushing the cheek of the guy when after he's done the shave. Or there's, it's an Axe body spray and the guy's got a motorcycle and it's revving. There's a way that it's been done to make that appeal. And men are susceptible to certain kinds of marketing in of themselves. But and maybe, again, like I said earlier, maybe even me not experiencing colorism is maybe because you said, like, beauty for women is currency. And maybe if for man it is not, it might be currency, but not as valuable, then maybe it means that the way that they will experience that thing is different. But then by that, if there is still the buy-in step, like, and it's not always just buy-in, I can accept that it's after some time, if you're surrounded by people, maybe not for colorism, like there's a certain kind of pressure where just saying that, okay, why are you giving into the pressure is not
it's not helping.
It's not helping. It is. I do think it's part of something to examine, where it's just like, why is the need felt that, like, you know what? Why can't I just exist? Why can't I just exist? And maybe this might be the fault of when I go back to Bukoba, where there's not as much of all of this advertising, or there's just no one to make the purchase. Like, capitalism needs someone to spend the money to do the thing, to buy the Carolite, to do all that stuff. And if the money isn't there, there's no reason to advertise to the person.
Yeah.
And so they don't get the same response. Yeah. And so there are people who you go to their houses, they don't have, they like, let alone like needing to feel like they need to bleach their skin. They don't have braids. They don't have anything They might do earrings, maybe. That's like some of the places I've gone, that's the most that you'd see. And if someone was able to rise out of that space and make a decision to be like, you know what, I want to do this thing, but they're making it from a place of just like, you know, maybe it's nice to have this style of hair sometimes, versus like, I feel I need to be a thing to sit somewhere and have someone pull at my scalp for this long time because I need to be this thing where it's for you, because maybe being comfortable being in that space will make you feel better.
So you conform.
So you conform, and conforming is not always a bad thing. Again, living in a society where you're just like, you know, I don't need to be at friction with that society. But then the motivations for it are, I think, what is important to examine, so you don't find yourself in a place where maybe you are disliking a part of yourself that you should otherwise embrace.
And that's what I think a lot of dark skin women go to. The older you become, I think we become more confident in more confident in your skin. There were times, even if I didn't experience colorism in my household, there were times where I wanted to, you know, get married to an Algerian man or an Ethiopian guy, just so that I could have that adjacentness where it's still black, because I've always had that I want it to be a mandala away to like black people, but then I can get that soft hair, kind of tan skin. There were times where I upheld that, because somehow when you grow up, you just learn that black is not beautiful. Yes, slavery and colonialism happened 200 years ago, but we're still, this is neo-colonization, and it's not like we're free and it's kumbaya. It's not. We still carry elements of that, and they seep into our media, even the filters online that make you lighter. Why? There was a pandemic of photographers. By the way, photographer, tell your friends. There was a pandemic where ukipigwa picha na ya harusi whatever, they gloss you out. Unakuwa sio kama wewe ni mweusi.
Yeah, I've photographed people, and they would tell me like, mbona umetotoa weusi? And then I realized that because there are people who, the primary place that they look on themselves, they're constantly being filtered.
Yeah.
When you show them what they actually look like, they don't. And this is not even like these are people I photographed with a light. So technically, they're already lighter than they actually are, but not lighter as they want to be, and they're just like, no, I need to be.
Then I can't blame the photographers, because you do get people who say, "Mbona tumetokea usi, tupige nyingine." So the photographers are learning. Photographers are learning to now gloss, because they're like, people don't like to be kuonekana weusi. And the thing is, why is that a problem? Because we live in Africa, majority of us are dark skin. It's a pandemic that we think it's not a beautiful thing, because tuko wengi.
I have a theory, and I know you're not gonna like it.
No, I'm here to be triggered.
Okay.
I was prepared.
I want to start by saying that I accept that things like colorism and racism are exacerbated. They are always made worse by colonialism, like by other things. On some level, I don't want to say but. On some level, I feel like there are things that are, when it comes to disliking people, there are things that are easy targets.
Why are those a target?
Hold on. So I watched the video about colorism in Ethiopia. And as you know, Ethiopia wasn't colonized.
Yes.
And I watched it specifically. I was just like, okay, I know, like, especially you said, like, you when we last spoke about this, you said, like, this is something that rose out of colonialism. And this person, and you know, in Ethiopia, you have people that are of different shades, but they have like the softer hair. Like they're a particularly different group of people. So I feel like amongst black people, that would be different. But because of what their race is like, it will be interesting to see how colorism is manifesting in that place. And it kind of reinforced my theory that apart from people, like, human beings will never lack in finding ways to hate each other.
True.
It's just like it's like trying to ask, why are people bad people? Like there's a certain degree of like commenting on people's bodies here. So someone you might not even know will make a comment, maybe not even about your color, but it's something that people do very freely here. And they don't always realize that what it does to someone, that the way it might be being delivered in a benign way, but that's not the result that it's achieving. So my partial idea of colorism is that if you live in a world where whiteness, and I don't mean the race, I just mean like actual things being white in color, in fabric, and whatever it is no, I mean white light doesn't have anything to do with the race white. That's what I mean. I'm talking about
the color.
If you live in a world where brown...
White is right.
No. White is clean, as an example.
Why?
Hold on, let me get there. Like when you remove something of all its color, it remains white. Like even if you just wanted to add blue to it, it means you're tinting it. You're adding, and that brown, the color of dust and nini. And so if you are looking for a reason to hate people, it's like people who call Africans monkeys. Like if you're going to be a racist and you're just like, let's look for the easy target. You people are like monkeys. It's the easy target. If you're being a hateful person, it's the easy target. So if you live in a world and you want to start drawing parallels to things in that world that you live in, and you're just like, you know what, whiter, cleaner, and all those things are nicer. And then, because I don't know, it wasn't us, or it was like someone called white people, white called us black. Even the fact that we say black, I feel like if we said brown, because even then the definitions themselves are insufficient. We're not really black people. We're various shades of brown. Even white people are just like a sort of a pink, whatever.
It's a beige.
But us sticking into those, like, you know what? These are white. These are black.
I'm going to summarize that so we can get to the most.
So my point is that I feel like it's people have never lacked an excuse to hate each other, even in places where colonialism did. Like it comes from something, and you being different from me because you're taller, you're shorter, your nose is this. I can turn that, even let alone as a child, as an adult, I can just make it be like those people over there that have this, the us versus the us, that right there. There's a whole video about whether the Kendrick and the Drake beef is like the elements of colorism in it and what it means for black people.
It's very interesting, colors, especially from Drake, like things like light skin behavior and the softness. And
no, but then people who are darker skinned treating lighter skinned people like they're not black enough.
Yes.
It's because it's an easy thing to call out. Like, you're not like black. You're not really in the culture. And that's one of the things he was being criticized about. Like Drake is utilizing the black culture when he needs it. But is he black? He might be, but then is he black or is he not?
He is black. So I want to segue.
Also, I'm curious about for the people who are not dark skinned, not light skin. What is their experience like?
I don't think they experience it at all because
like Shanira,
it's not an identifying figure. I experienced it. No, but I experience it. People identify me as African queen or whatever. Like
it's because
I don't think
you have made
I have owned it.
That. Yeah.
So for me, the reason why it's not used against me.
Yeah, you have a whole tattoo of
even
Africa
before the tattoo.
Chest.
Even
but the vibes,
the funny
your fashion designer, you're very much those vibes.
The reason why it's not used against me in a bad way, even for people who don't know me, even when I cover my tattoo at times, is because I own it. Like it came to a point.
Not as dark, babe.
Babe, I experience colorism, just not the level that you do because you're darker than me. But it's there.
Do people
it's there
cut you out of spaces because you're dark?
Like you're too dark for this?
No,
not really. Babe, have you been cut out of spaces because you're dark? Okay, you know what? Let's do this. Let's talk about how in dating and in the dating phase, because we're all dating, right? Have you experienced like colorism there?
Yes.
Okay, explain. Give us like an example. In dating.
So one, again, going back to men and their preferences. So I'm never the preferred, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I get to because I don't know, maybe also my definition of love, maybe I'm not feminine enough, because femininity means you wait to be chosen, right? I love it when I also chose you. Like, I liked you.
So why do you think femininity means that?
It's what's being peddled right now.
Yeah, that's what's
being peddled right now.
Yeah.
If you look into the feminine,
be very careful of these voices in society and what people are saying. Like, who dictates that? That's because wherever you heard it, wherever 10 other places you heard it, you are here on a podcast saying that might not be the case. You are also a voice. And there's maybe people who listen to, like, I get it, but be very careful of saying, like, that's what's being said out there. That's what men, that's what women, that's what people are saying.
We are simply saying, when you Chokwamba, in that, because right now there's a whole segment.
I have never heard that. I understand. I've never heard that phrase.
There are
people who are just like, femininity is power. Own, don't wait to be, don't.
There's a whole
not feminism.
There's a whole niche of femininity content that teaches women how to be more feminine.
Yeah.
And one of those is like, be soft, relax, wait
according to someone's idea.
Man to you know, like take you and like, I don't know. And then
so I'm always on the shorter end of the stick that I can't choose, or maybe I'm a bit shy to choose. I'm put in a situation where you can't choose because you are not always the preferred.
What has is there anything that's happened that has taught you that?
Okay, so all of the men that I have desired have never desired me.
Okay.
All of them.
All of them, babe.
I dare say, yeah.
No, babe.
I dare say.
So the men you have been with, you haven't desired them?
at first, like attraction, like that. No, I didn't like them at first.
And the men who've desired you?
The men who've desired me.
I'm sure there are men who have desired you.
Who have let them down. Was it because they're light skin?
Yeah, actually. I had... Okay, this okay.
Let's we're not experts. We're just here to speak our truth. Yes, what's your truth, Thecla?
My truth is I would not get... Okay, my preference, again, that word, I hate it. But my preference is a dark skin man, tall,
But also why?
Also why, yeah?
Because the dark skin, it represents, there's an undertone of like masculinity and strength. So when men have it, it's like, wow.
Colorism.
It is colorism.
It is colorism, yeah.
And when men have it, it's like, wow, he's a tall, dark, and handsome. Yeah. But when women have it, because of women, you're supposed to be feminine. Once you have that, it's almost like there's a coat of masculinity in you, where people are perhaps less empathetic of you or less accepting or understanding of your femininity, especially when it's adjacent to a light-skinned lady.
Yeah.
Like the fact that...
You think when a woman is darker, she might be seen as more masculine?
Yes.
Yeah. There's a way in which unaonekana you are more resilient.
You're resilient. You can take hard stuff.
The resilience, yes, but masculline...
That is it.
This is again...
Resilience it has a masculine
Why don't you accord the same resilience with the dark skin, with the lighter skin girl?
I think
the lighter girl is soft.
Oh my God.
God, she can't carry that.
Oh my God.
And
she's crying.
Yeah, they do it for light-skinned men too, that the assumption of being lighter is being softer and such.
Is that? It's not necessarily true.
Yes. But that's why for me, and maybe because I am a dude, so maybe what do you have a preference for intrinsic women? Hold on. What I perceive as intrinsic masculinity is very different from what you your experience of what you perceive as masculine, being women, is different from what I would perceive as. So for me, just like, I don't think color would make me, at least, perceive the lady as being more masculine because she's darker. But again, I think these are small subjective things. Ask me your question again.
Yeah.
But anyway,
you asked me about
story.
Your dating story has been what?
Has been dark. Even those who end up picking me, yeah? And even those who end up picking me, yeah? You just find
sexualization?
It's okay, no. Sexualization will come down to the body.
Okay, that's a different package.
Yeah, that's a different package.
Okay.
They're not proud of what they have chosen. You know?
Tell me an example of where you faced that. Yeah,
so I got into a relationship with this man, right? And in closed doors, he loves me, right? Even in outside doors, like he
loves you in the dark.
Yeah, he loves me in the dark. But when he's with his friends, he kind of downplays how bad he loves me. You know,
are you sure it's because of your skin tone?
Because I saw him and how he related when he got a lighter skinned girl.
Is it because of she's light skin?
Yes, babe.
There's no... Okay, what did he say or do? Like, I'm trying to look for that.
No, I think also men, pia, anasema kwamba men are not buying in, but the same buying in ambao sisi tunapewa buy in, also men are buying in.
As that standard.
Kwamba a standard of a woman that you should have should be light skin, petite, and actually that's why they call it preference, because they have bought in to the, preference.
Do you have preferences? I think that's two different things. Like, if you have a preference...
Yeah, it's too intellectual to understand this, but ipo.
Anyway,
I'm not refusing that. I have this phrase that I've actually told you before that I feel like my friends who are rappers have a certain kind of woman that they like to date.
Okay.
Because it's not purely because they're rappers, but there's a certain culture that comes in that space and a certain kind of woman that they talk about. And I feel like they tend to lean in that direction. That if you look at the maybe I don't want to say wives, the girlfriends of rappers, they look a certain way and they want the girl to be a certain way. And that is, I feel like the fact that they got into rap and they like certain things already means that their preferences are leaning that way. But I'm curious about your situation because on some level, especially when it comes to dating, I'm like, if that's what scratches whatever, if that what rocks your boat, all for it. If you feel like that's the thing about him not showing,
being proud
of you or showing you affection in a certain way, there are so many jokes about men who are unable to just, maybe this might be an African man thing, show affection to a certain degree outside of like when they're with you, or just generally, where it's just like there's really like, okay, you're mine, but are you being affectionate, romantic? Have you ever seen that thing where someone calls someone and they don't say "I love you"?
Girlfriend, when
Yes.
they're outside,
She got that say.
So that's the thing.
Is it purely because of the shade? Is there something he said that told you that?
No, I could feel like it was a friends thing. His clique was a clique that believed that a woman has to be light.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They used to talk about it a lot, even in my presence, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah, kwamba, mwanamke anakuwaje mweusi,
Mhm.
kind of thing.
And I've heard that before, yeah.
So for him, being with his friends who are like that, made him feel like, oh my God, so I am dating the opposite of what a woman should look like. So
they didn't get the buy-in from his friends.
Exactly. So whenever I would be in that situation, he would try his best to look like I'm not part of you like that. Haiko deep, like we're just you know. But inside doors, he really likes me and the person that I am and the personality that I am, you know. And I've gotten that a lot. Like men buy in and they think it's a preference.
The trophy wife,
you know, a trophy wife, a woman who looks this kind of way. So if you'd find a woman who you really like, you know, she's dark skinned, you love her personality, you guys mesh very well, but then
but she isn't light enough.
You know, the people who are with kind of look at you like, really, that's the best you could do.
So on some level, and I'm in no way am I saying that we do indefensible things.
Yeah.
Just I'm not speaking like, oh no, men are actually this way. One, I think on some level it may be I can't explain the depth of, like, I know a lot of men. I am one, but I know a lot of men who say things, but the depth of, like, you see something and that's what you want, how strong that impulse is to, like, if it's very difficult. There's a friend of mine, you don't know if you may have met him, but he was talking about, it was a group of guys and talking about what do you like in a lady, and he's just like, reception basically means he's just about this. Like, if her face is a certain way, he doesn't care about this part, about her butt, boobs, or thing. And some people just like, no, I need the lady to be this way. I like, and they die on their hill more often than not. Where just like, I need, like, I can't be with this person. They just, like, if this person is already entertaining a relationship with you, one, I think there's something else wrong there. Because if I tell people, you are entitled to, if you like a tall, dark guy, you are entitled to liking that. There's this idea that sometimes we should feel like everyone is beautiful. Everyone is beautiful, like your mom is beautiful. Everyone, if you ask everyone if your mom is beautiful, your mom is beautiful. But attraction and being like, you know what? I like a person with a proper gap in their tooth, and that's what you like. And more, I told you this before, where more often or not, the people that we complain about are people who we wished liked us. They like something that's not quite us. Maybe they like our personality, they just don't like how we look. Or they like how we look, they don't. Because there are absolutely many men who are just like, that girl is nice to look at, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Like, okay, she's light-skinned, she's pretty. And then what? You know actually someone who I don't know if I can mention it, but you know the person who was just like, she was very nice and I can't talk to her. Like, there was nothing there beyond that. There was no content. And that's, like, initially it may be okay because, yeah, you know, for the initial, like, you know, she's pretty, and then it doesn't go anywhere. If it was just people going, because we would have lived in a world where people just only dated light-skinned girls, like, just be like, you know what, straight to the light-skinned, forget about all these other people. And I understand not feeling desired, but absolutely, there's a comedian I like. His name is Pete Holmes, and Pete Holmes is very tall and he's a bit wide in the middle. And he said, like, sometimes he looks at his body in the mirror and it's just like, what is this thing? I'm tall. And he says, I have birthing hips, and he's a man. And he's just like, but then someone will see me and be like, that's my stuff right there. Like, what you are is exactly what I like. And that's, for a lot of people, that's kind of what attraction is. It is absolutely influenced by things that we see, but that intrinsic thing where, you know, I have a thing for people who are particularly intelligent. I've been in a situation where I've known someone for a time, and then I meet them during a presentation at 7, and I'm just like, wait a minute. Like, suddenly there's something about you that is attractive, and I know it about myself.
Yeah.
But it means that I'm absolutely certain, for more than, and not just for one person, that there's someone out there who's just like, you know what you are, however it is that you see yourself, that you're too big, you're too small, you're too dark, someone just like, that is exactly what I want. There are people who you've seen people tell their partners, like, you know what, I don't understand why you're doing these other things, because the way that you are, and it sometimes it doesn't feel like enough.
Yeah, it does.
Because there's all these other people looking at you, and there's that thing where you say like doing something for the audience of one. But if there's that one person who's just like, you know what, this is the person I met, this is the person, cup of tea, and being like, you know what, it's enough that I am this person's cup of tea, and maybe the world thinks this way. Even those men in that clique, who they might all espouse a certain idea, and you might not find that all of them have some light-skinned girlfriend.
True. But also, not having a light-skinned girlfriend doesn't mean that wewe unapenda dark skin. Sometimes, you're light-skinned, and there's so many layers to this conversation.
So guys,
Light-skinned girls are always the ones who are more expensive. So sometimes huna hela ya ku.
Na hata ukiwa nayo, there's still that idea of like, it's, you know what a white elephant is? Something that
expensive.
it's just an expensive thing to have. But even then, we've had this conversation about like how sometimes people who are particularly attractive makes the way that they navigate around society very different from people who are not the desirable thing in that society. And because they have to do less work to build relationships, when you meet them, if you're a dude now trying to pursue them as a lady, they might not, someone like, if you're a guy, you have to be funny. Because if you're not going by looks, we have to be funny. You have to do all these extra things. And then if there are people absolutely who have money, and they use that as if they're having a fight in their relationship, they'll solve it with money, because it's like, I don't have to build character, I have money. But the reverse works as well. You like, I don't have to be super qualified, I'm beautiful, people will give me opportunities.
And that's why I think women, we go through a phase where we're like, okay, at least for me, because I glowed up badai. I came to a point where I was like, okay, I'm not the pretty girl, I'm not the it girl, I see what people are looking at, it's not me. But you know what? I'll be funny. I'll be the best dancer.
And I bet you can ask 100 people if they think you're pretty, and they say, like, you might think that I'm not the thing. It's just that maybe the people you are thinking are
not people who are for me.
But there's a bunch of people who are just like,
oh my God,
you are the thing. More than you can even handle.
It just met the personality you get. So it's like, wow.
Anyway, Bombshell has entered the villa.
Any closing thoughts? Any closing remarks, Thecla, as we are winding up because of time?
Yeah, so I don't want this episode to look like we are shaming lighter skin girls. We love you, and I don't think really this conversation is black is better,
versus,
which one is better.
Yeah.
But just addressing this issue and seeing the layers of it and how women of darker skin tones navigate. So I think closing remarks is just be yourself, love yourself. Address, like what Gervaz said, address the underlying issue within you. And I can see that really a lot of experiences also that I was so aggrieved with or made me want to change this part of myself, meaning my skin, really was an inside thing. Sometimes I just looked in the mirror and said,
you're the final say at the end of the day.
Maybe you're really not that, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Be you.
Yeah. Thecla, also, you kind of, you denied me the
your struggle.
Like, you're not like us.
You're not like us. I have never, ever told to my ass. Damn. Okay. Anyway, yes. So guys, I'm dark skinned. I've never felt the need to defend myself like today.
Okay,
what the hell? Tell to my hair and my ass. I am dark skinned. Thank you very much. Gervaz, thank you for being with us. There's so many moments in this conversation which have led out of colorism into just self-confidence.
True.
And Mushwasiku, that's the only solution, because there'll always be a standard to chase. Once dark-skinned girls are in, you're dark-skinned, great. Now they say they want straight hair. Now you have to change your hair. Now you have to change the color of your... It's going to be a constant chase. So let's just learn to accept. The quicker you accept, the earlier you can find the beauty in what you already have. Thank you so much for joining us, Gervaz.
It was a pleasure.
It's a wrap, guys. Episode 5. Like, share, subscribe. Our handles are at the bottom of the description box. And we love you. Bye.